Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga is trending online, not for good reasons, but always for bad reasons. Let me try to jog your memory a little bit. That last year, that was in June, Kenyans went to the streets to demonstrate. Also this year, Kenyans went to the streets for anniversary of what happened last year in June. And also on Sabasaba Day, Kenyans went to the streets and some lost their lives. And during demonstrations, we'd always realize that the demonstrations were about changing Kenya, transforming Kenya, fighting tribalism, because these were youth-led protests. And the rallying call was, it is time for transformation. We are tribalists. But what we just want is good leadership. We want a united country, a country where your tribe doesn't matter or where you come from doesn't matter. That has been the conversation. Simply put, we just wanted to end tribalism, marginalization, but allow the country to be guided by principles, equality, social justice. But what comes to your mind when a leader who is the vice chairperson of Council of Governors and governor for Nyeri County says this? If you look closely, all things, and in this case it meant national resources, were being sent to Western and Nyanza, because apparently we, now the Agikuyu people, were not in their plans. But God came and heard our cries, and he did his wonders. You know the wonders he meant? He meant that God heard the Agikuyu prayers and decided to take Raila's life. And imagine, this is coming from a leader, sitting governor of Nyeri County and vice chairperson of Council of Governors. People, how can we even end tribalism when this is coming from people that we should look up to? From people who are supposed to give us direction. I don't know if you're ashamed like me. For me, I am so ashamed because I least expected this kind of hatred, and I least expected someone to celebrate someone's demise, and I least expected someone to think that President Ruto is diverting development or resources, actual national resources, to Western Kenya and Nyanza because of the handshake he had with Raila. Let's have an honest conversation here. If you've been following discussions online, especially X, you'd realize that people have been talking about Kikuyu entitlement. Let me just mention it openly. However, I've heard other leaders mention it indirectly. And this kind of Kikuyu entitlement that people talk is not just coming from nowhere. And what this guy has said demonstrates actually that entitlement. But I am certain not all people from Mount Kenya share this kind of entitlement. I am sure young people, you and I, whether you're in Kikuyu, whether you're where, but what we share is we want a fair country. Let me give an example. For me, I am from Western Kenya, but the person I have children with is actually from Nyeri. We have two sons. She has ever traveled to Western Kenya. I've ever traveled to Central Kenya, and personally, if I can remember, when we met, we didn't even care about the tribe and all that. What we only cared about was our love. We loved each other. That's why we ended up having children together, even if we are not married. But the fact is, there was mutual love. Now, what's the point here? She is from Nyeri, I am from Western Kenya. I have sons with her who consider Western Kenya their home. And at some point, she would also consider Western Kenya her home. So, doesn't she want development in Western Kenya? She wants development in Western Kenya. Don't I want development in Nyeri or Central Kenya? I honestly want development to happen in Central Kenya. But again, let me say this. The very first time I traveled with her to Western Kenya, she was very uncomfortable, especially when we drove from Kisumu to Busia, because that road, especially when you get out of Kisumu city, especially from the CBD, to be honest, you'll never see a dual carriageway. That highway, Kisumu-Busia highway, is actually in a terrible condition. And she wondered, what part of Kenya is this? And until now, that road has not been dualed or expanded. I know there has been some works on the road, where they're doing some, just patching up and all that. But when I traveled to Nyeri or to central Kenya with her, the roads were so good. And also, maybe just to mention to you, I've ever lived in Murang'a and the roads are so good. But her experience in Western Kenya wasn't good because she was unable to see these mega projects she sees in central Kenya. So when someone says that development is being taken to Western Kenya or Nyanza, I think sometimes it is an issue of forgetfulness. It's an issue of denying facts that Nyanza and Western haven't been receiving much, especially from the national government. It's only that at least we are seeing something happening now. But does it mean that Nyeri is not receiving any development? No. I even talked about Kenol Sagana Marua Highway, which is actually in central Kenya, and in fact, it passes through Nyeri. Do we have such kind of projects in Nyanza or Western? No. Anyway, maybe there could be one, but I haven't seen any. Governor Kahiga is just tribal, and it's also sarcastic that on Mashujaa Day, he shared a Mashujaa Day celebration message and he included the image of Raila. What I think about this inclusion was just trying to mask his tribalism, but factually, it did not mean it because a few days or hours later, he was celebrating the demise of Raila. Let's also set the record clear. Here's the thing, guys. Kenya is a constitutional democracy where people go to vote and whoever wins the majority votes becomes a president, member of parliament, governor, or whatever office you run for. Once you're in office, you're supposed to serve people fairly without discrimination because that is what social justice demands. That it's not just about who voted for you, but it's about service to all. That is the point of the basis of democracy. It doesn't mean that when you win, then you only take development to those people who voted for you. That's not how democracy works. Kahiga, come on. You're a governor. Did all Nyerians or Nyeri residents vote for you? Not all. And I am certain that in some wards or sub-counties in Nyeri, you performed so dismally. So, does it mean that you're not taking development to those areas? Man, stop this tribalism. We cannot continue with this kind of tribalism, Kenyans. We must wake up. This guy is just tribal, nothing else. Anyway, this is how people have reacted to that kind of statement from Kahiga. Sierra Governor says that the utterances by the governor of Nyeri about Raila Odinga are shameful, callous, and distasteful, and is not protected speech. This is hateful speech that brings dishonor to the public offices occupied by the governor. Impunity at its worst. Odium Party tweeted, in this period of mourning following the loss of our party leader at Raila Odinga, we wish to pray for the governor of Nyeri, Mr. Mutahi Kahiga, that God forgives him for the utterances he made on the passing of our leader. Gachagua ally and Senator Methu also tweeted, Governor Kahiga decided him and recklessness will walk hand in hand. That was an extremely unfortunate statement. Jeremiah Kioni also tweeted, Mutahi Kahiga has outdone himself in disgrace. Let it be known that he spoke for himself, not for Nyeri, not for the mountain, and certainly not for Kenya. To celebrate death and drag a whole community into your head is the lowest form of politics. Shame on you at Governor Kahiga. Salah, who has also been so close to Raila and has been part of Raila's journey, tweeted this. I strongly condemn the reckless and insensitive remarks by Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga celebrating the passing of Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Such statements are not only shameful but also a deep insult to the Odinga family and to millions of Kenyans who hold Baba in high esteem for his lifelong struggle for democracy, justice, and national unity. Raila Odinga's legacy transcends politics. He was a statesman whose courage and vision shaped our nation. To rejoice in his death is to mock the spirit of humanity and the values that bind us as a country. Leaders must rise above hate and division and instead promote empathy, respect, and peace. Rest in peace, Baba. Kenya unites. You all agree with me that truly speaking, this governor was so reckless, so insensitive, so colors. Recently, he was in Homa Bay attending devolution conference. As a vice chairperson of Council of Governors, he had to go to Homa Bay early enough, and I remember seeing a tweet from him. It was actually by the lake where he was enjoying the breeze. So he must have seen some development in Homa Bay and wondered, how come these people are receiving development? So that must have hurt him, because he feels that other areas in this country or regions in this country do not deserve development. And here is the full clip where he celebrated the death of Raila, and also here is a clip of him saying that President Ruto is taking development to other parts of the country.
We get what is rightfully for Nyeri. Na hapo tusipembelezane, hapo tusipembelezane. Kama ni kugawa, tulipiga kura ndio tupate serikali. So ukisema 5 billion tunataka nayo Western, tusikie uliwapatia ngapi? Sababu tumeona kuna ka shift serikali imeanza kuchukua ya kuendaga Western kila siku. Sasa mnaongea, nimesikia DMM anaongea juu ya hii stadium yetu ya Rorengo. Bungoma simulienda imejengwa? Walikuwa wamepatiana kura ngapi? How many votes are they given? Yetu sasa ni contractor sijui wanne analetwa. Can we be treated like equal citizens of this country? Na tusiambiwe ati tunapelekwa namna hii na ni lazima ieleweke. Those we are speaking are facts. Maundu maria turoiga ni mama na ni maundu maroneka. Nituraiguana. Na no wega gucokera kugo gitio gitiguragwo. Respect is not won. Tulisikia hata kuna kahadithi wameanza ati Rigathi aliitisha bilioni 5, aliitisha nini ndio aende wapi? Ningetaka nieleze kanisa hili kwamba Rigathi Gachagua yeye ndiye alikuwa na Uhuru Kenyatta katika KANU na ameendelea kusimama. He is a loyal man. Hata sasa ameshikilia rais namna hii. Lakini niambie, unawezaje kushikilia your boss anakuambia leo enda useme Uhuru ni mbaya? Mnakumbuka ile statement ilikuwa kule wakiingia, akasema wewe Uhuru ulitukosea, hiyo mambo ikaisha. Tukatoka hapo, akamwambia ongea juu ya shareholding, akaenda Kisumu akamuita primitive. Kuita Rigathi primitive ni sisi unaita primitive, sababu sisi ni mtoto wetu. Tulipotoka hapo, juzi akamwambia Raila hata ingia State House, weka mitego. Hiyo mitego imefika wapi? Ni amenyilio na akeigelio. Alafu mnakuja kutuambia ati tukae hivi, ati weka mitego. Ni rais alimwambia weka mitego, Raila hata ingia. Leo Raila darakoma bedroom. Alafu unakuja kutuambia nini? What are you telling us? Kama rais anakumbuka yeye ndiye aliingia hapa, na Bwana asifiwe, hata sasa
Mlona tiwa kwa abadi kukonda kana tiude ko chagari dai na una mutu no dai nya torora to mo bambore orari ho mukirora biyo na inyo mutaru magara imita rita ko na ko ya ko na ko ito tsare yaro la dio na ko yo duaro suno to ito to ke pipia ga tudaki ya dukana ke leo turakibatre ga ina tiaroka katiru arauga del coroni atia kongore mwana mweka tuikaidia bado mare tu majokia drawing ki to de bagure era kile hogi de sokora ya kusikia kaina ke no ya kile ya kimakwa mu na ya koma kakayo ile tibiwa sio ajira yake otakete kule arogo ni kupija na mara korobana mu ya kupata baba ake moya ngela ya roke Yo digo que boga. Yo cara tureke, tore macho, tu ameria no ya gabi, tu diete obo, roe, diga ikale, tabe ma ku ibo kanada. To kiwe, to kulia makanida litare magadima. magathikiriria na makarora tondu riu bwana asibiwe ndikwendwerorwo bwana asibiwe uguo ndikwendekeragwo bwana asibiwe na tukerwo ni bwana uriku kana tiguo tondu niwino ngitwathigio tukuga bwana asibiwe tugitigu riu turariragira kinoro no timahetia macio nithuĩ tũtoririe ĩ bwana yupi kana tiguo riu koguo ritaĩ no nginya tũkiguaga tũrie twĩ nĩ bwana ndĩkie na kuga ũũ itũra tũnyitanĩrĩre mũthenya ũngĩ tũragĩa na mathĩna na kamwaro